Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome to another live stream. Today we have a very special guest, Apostate Ministry School.
Hey everybody, good to see you.
All right, well hopefully we got 47 people watching. Cool.
Cool.
Chat, let us know how the audio is doing, if you can hear us well, so that would be appreciated before we start.
Turn this down here. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, yeah. Hey guys, I'm not Apostate Ministry School. We're two different people, okay? And then let's see.
Two different people, guys. Is my audio working well?
Yeah, there's still that little ringing thing, but we'll probably
crap.
go.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, what they say, audio sounds good. It's probably maybe it's just my AirPods. It's okay. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Let's see. Panda Tower face reveal at 50K. Maybe I don't know. I think I'll be featuring in someone else's channel. I'm not gonna tell you which one, but hopefully I'm making plans with her to make a video on XJW. So
Awesome.
I will probably probably showing my face there, but we'll see how that goes.
This is what he looks like, guys. He looks like this.
Yeah, I am an actual animal behind the screen. Okay, all right, Cam. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Today we're gonna be hearing your waking up story and all the events that led to your waking up from this religion. So why don't you give us a little tour of your life, of your family upbringing?
Totally. To start off, I guess I'm a fourth gen, born in former JW now. I started to wake up around June of 2022. I was PMO for a few months, probably like 3 to 4 months, I want to say. And by the end of that year, around, I want to say November, I'd stopped going to meetings. I didn't really go anymore. I kind of started to get to the point where I was like, I can't do this. So that's like the very basic, whichever part you want me to dig into, I can.
Yeah, so you were never baptized, right?
Yeah, no, I never did get baptized. I was sort of working towards it, but the thing is, like, I was pressured a lot. There were people in my congregation who would say, they would give me, like, I got letters a couple times that said, only you can make the truth your own, and, like, we're really proud of you, and we want you to take the next step. So, yeah, it was kind of sweet when I got them, but I still did definitely feel the pressure to get baptized, to dedicate myself to the group. So
Yeah, that's rough. So are your parents both Jehovah's Witnesses?
yeah. I'm fourth generation, so my parents were born in. My grandparents were, at least one of my grandparents was born in, and I know one of my great grandparents joined. I think it was on my mom's side. So
Your great grandparent?
Yeah, man. We go way back.
That's crazy. Cool. Yeah. So how did that pressure look like to get baptized? So you're an unbaptized publisher. When did you start feeling the pressure to take that step?
I want to say I was about 17, and one of the things they would do, I would have, like, there was an elder who would call me, and he would ask me to, like, give comments or read scriptures, or I once got asked to, like, this was really weird. I got asked to, like, set the stage a little bit. Like, he wanted me to put this table on the stage for him. He could have easily done it himself, but he wanted me to do it. So they would give me, like, smaller tasks. I also worked behind the literature counter a little bit. Like, they tried to get me more involved. you can't really say no to that. There's no real way to say I don't want to do that. You have to. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's sort of how it went down with the pressure and everything.
All the menial tasks that they put you to do, huh? Well, so what was the greatest privilege that they give you in the congregation as an unbaptized dude?
Oh, probably working behind the literature counter. I kind of felt like I had a little respect when I did that. They said my audio. Sorry, the chat says my audio is cracking. Is it?
Yeah, it's still cracking.
Oh man, how bad is it?
A little bit, yeah. Let's see.
Oh man, okay. If it gets real bad, let me know.
Yeah, like we can hear you. It's just it cracks. You don't have a microphone?
No, I don't. I don't.
No, it's okay. No worries. Look, let me take you out of the audio and then put you back in. Let's see. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so an unbaptized publisher, you were given these assignments. And how was your experience in the ministry?
Field service. I never enjoyed field service. I don't think any JW does, but everyone pretends to. But I didn't do a whole lot in field service. I remember there were times when I went out in service and like I didn't even get out of the car. I remember this one time we went to. I was actually with an elder one time, and we did 2 doors. I didn't get out. We did 2 doors, and then we went to like Donut World, and then we went to McDonald's. So
That's a classic. I think a lot of witnesses end up doing that.
Yeah, man. Coffee breaks were the highlight of the ministry. So
Yeah, and you lived in the Northeast, right? Of the states. I'm sure it got cold. Or
yeah, East Coast.
in the East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it get really hot or cold?
It got really hot. It got pretty hot. So being outside wearing the suits, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's torture.
That sucked.
Yeah, I remember here. Well, I'm here in Texas, and oh my god, it gets super hot during the summer, and it also gets cold in the winter. So it's not like a freaking walk in the park. Yeah, that was not nice.
Yeah, you should go back. You don't have to wear a tie now or a jacket.
True, I know. Wow, what great provisions from Jehovah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think are the changes that they're gonna make next?
Next, I could almost see birthdays, but they'd have to spin that in a way with the Bible. Hopefully some lessening on the shunning policy and getting rid of blood, but I wish I could say with any degree of accuracy, you know?
Yeah, well, I think we're all hoping for the shunning and the blood to go away, because I think those are the most destructive.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely blood, man. Blood was, when you go back and like that Awake article, let's see if I remember the year. I believe it was May 22nd, 1994. That Awake article with the kids on the front. Oh my God, man. Horrible.
Yeah, I think it was youths who put God first.
Yeah, exactly. That was it.
Damn, that was just so brazen. I can't imagine them releasing that today.
Exactly, man. Like, just directly talking about all the kids that died.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can pull up a picture so the chat can see it. But yeah, atrocious. I think it's the worst cover we've ever seen. Let me see. Well, I pulled that up. And how did it feel? How did you feel at school, not being able to celebrate anything, or how was your experience?
School was interesting. I actually have something I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to share that on the stream. So one time when I was in kindergarten, right, I got an invitation to this kid's birthday party, and I remember, like, as soon as he gave it to me, I remember being sort of scared. I was like, oh man, I got a birthday invitation and I can't go, and I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Like, I had no idea what to do. I think I can't remember if I was crying or not when I showed it to my dad, but I remember I gave it to my dad and I showed him, and he was like, he kind of calmed me down, and he was like, look, man, you can just not go. You don't have to, you don't really have to, it's not you're not in trouble, basically, is what he told me. So, not being able to celebrate my birthday in school, I was kind of lucky because my birthday falls in the months where we're not in school, so I didn't have to worry about celebrating mine. It was mainly other people's. So I didn't participate. There were a couple of times where I was in the classroom and I kind of just had to sit there awkwardly. If you've had this, you'll know what I'm talking about. But
yeah,
it's pretty sad for like a little child, especially when you're in elementary school and you just want to participate in everything that they're doing, and you just want to hang out with your friends and have fun, and you can't. But it's not one of the reasons why I left.
that's true. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
compared to all the other reasons, it's kind of inconsequential, you know. It
At
sucks,
the
but
end of
it's
the
not
day,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's well, we can celebrate it now, you know. It's not like, oh, damn, I lost completely out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an interesting comment here by Angus Foley. Why would people even want to do this religion? It sounds horrible. You don't. You're raised in it. That's the point.
Yeah. We were born in, man. We didn't get a choice.
Yep.
I
Here.
wish.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, that's how indoctrination works. You are raised in a religion, and you are not allowed to think about it critically, because the best time to convert someone is when they're a child and they can't, you know, they can't reason yet. You know, they're
Yeah,
barely forming the worldview, and then you can hammer in anything you want into their little brains when they're super young. You know.
exactly. They really do push that. There's like a Bible verse. I can't remember which one, but they push that. But I also want to say, because they said, why would people want to do this religion? It sounds horrible. Even for people who are converts, they don't tell you all the bad stuff before you join. They don't tell you. I mean, most people usually know about the holidays and the prohibitions, but they're not going to tell you about like CSA cases, and blood is not going to be mentioned. That's not until like the later chapters of what's their new manual they use now, Enjoy Life Forever. It's not until like the last chapters that they really get to that, and they kind of gloss over it.
Yeah, no, that's how cults operate. They hide doctrine, you know, at the beginning. They're not gonna give you the whole doctrine. They're not gonna start with the governing body chapter or the blood chapter. Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, first of all, before we start, thank you, Soshin Liao, for your donation. Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you. I'm just what do you call it? I'm just remaking all the money they donated to Watchtower. Yeah, I'm making it back now.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell us about your waking up journey. How does this? Where does this journey start? Where you start deconstructing from your indoctrination?
So I had to kind of list it out, and I started with like the cracks that I had, I guess, in the foundation. I think that's where everyone starts with. One of them was, it was a post-COVID. This was a sort of, I guess witnesses call them gathering. It's the closest thing you have to a party as a JW. And I went to one of my friends. It was a sort of a graduation gathering, graduation party they had, and I just remember how out of place I felt there. Everyone else had their. We played this game where you pass a ball around and you tell like your spiritual goal, because that's what JWs do for fun. And I remember I just had to say like getting baptized, and everyone claps, and it's just like, I remember thinking like, do I really want to though? But I had to say something. You can't say nothing. So, and everyone else there, my congregation growing up they didn't have a lot of people my age. So I only really had like maybe my siblings growing up. I didn't really have anyone else. So I didn't have a whole lot of friends there either. And I saw other people with that, and they seemed like they belonged so much. And I didn't feel like that.
And
So,
how old were you when you started realizing that?
ooh, I'd say it was approaching adolescence, maybe like 14, 15, when I started to realize I'm like, because I couldn't see myself doing the JW thing of like getting married, raising my kids in the religion. Should I have any? I didn't know if I wanted to. So, but yeah, I couldn't see myself in the religion at all. Sharing things
So
about myself with a JW partner, I just could not see that at all.
that's interesting because yeah, I think I came to the same realization, but that was like almost at the very end of my waking up journey. That if I, it just kind of subconsciously, you know it, right? That it is just you
Hmm.
might not be in it forever.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but yeah, you did a pretty good job summarizing that.
Yeah, it's kind of a harrowing experience. Like it's like a little hole in your heart.
Yeah. I'd say another one of my cracks that I had that was a big one. I mentioned a little bit before we went live. This book I bought. It was called Logically Fallacious, and it's about logical fallacies. If you don't know what they are, it's just errors in reasoning, and they're very common, and a lot of times they fool adults even. And I started researching them because people that I would talk to when I was at my college course I went through, they would use these in conversation. And I knew some of them, but I didn't really understand all of them or how to combat them. So I wanted to learn that. So I kind of like accidentally educated myself and gave myself critical thinking abilities, because once you learn them, you start looking for them and you're able to see them a lot better. So I think that was like the second really big crack that I had.
And if I may ask, what were some of the most common logical fallacies you would see in the religion?
Oh, I actually, let me see if I have any of the sticky notes left in this book. I went through this book and I put like sticky notes on all the ones that I saw in the organization. Uh, the slippery slope one was very common. Uh, that slippery slope, for those who don't know, is when you start with A and then you go B, C, D, and then all the way to Z without explaining any of them. So, and I want to say, I don't know the name of this fallacy, but it's when you attack I guess it's just like ad hominem,
Yeah,
just
when you
attacking
attack the person.
apostates, but they don't address the argument.
That's a
That
big
one is
one.
really common.
Yeah. So if we could expand on the slippery slope fallacy, as Cam
Yeah.
said, it's Watchtower does this all the time, right? When they say, oh, if you start like if you start having wrong desires, for example,
Hmm.
that would lead you straight into adultery or into fornication. That's a very popular one. But
Yeah.
they just assume the worst of people, and they tell you, okay, you need to avoid all these minor things because it's gonna
Hmm.
lead you right into the big problems, which
Yeah.
is not how people work. It's people have self control and we have agency. It doesn't happen overnight, but Watchtower wants you to believe that.
Yeah. They always talk about how bad association spoils useful habits. That's like one of their favorite lines to use. And I just went through that like one phrase, and I'm like, how is me associating with maybe a coworker, which is a little bit of a thing I have to talk about later on, and we're just like doing something completely innocent? How is that going to lead to me losing my faith or me not believing in Watchtower's doctrines? Like, how is that going to directly lead to that? I couldn't see it. So,
Yeah, that's true. And the ad hominem, how did you feel like every time they brought up apostates and attacked the unbelievers or worldly people or apostates?
at first I didn't care, but it started to bother me because when a when an apostate brings up a valid argument and you don't address it, you just say, well, yeah, that's from an apostate. It's like, to me, that just wasn't good enough anymore. I'm like, okay, but how about we address what they said? I mean, if we have the truth, surely we can just debunk what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. How they they just Yeah, they just say don't put your head under the sand and don't listen to anything they have to say.
Yeah.
Okay. So learning about critical thinking and logical fallacies was a major step towards deconstruction.
Yeah. I got one more, I think, that was really, really big that I got to mention. So this one happened out during Zoom service. So for those who don't know, during COVID, the witnesses switched their door-to-door ministry that they normally do. They just started doing letter writing. I don't know, some of you may have gotten a letter from a Jehovah's Witness, and if you did, that's probably what that was. It was the letter writing campaign. And while we were on Zoom doing this, there was a sister who was there with us because when you did that, you were connected to other people who were in your service group and you could talk to them while you guys wrote letters. Most of the time, it was fine and perfectly innocent, but there was this one sister who was wearing pants, and people would do that during Zoom. They would dress from the top up, and this sister had pants on, and she stood up. And someone in my family, I won't say who, but someone in my family saw this, and they kind of started being really critical of this sister. And they were saying, like, oh, she's wearing pants. Why is she wearing pants? And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, like, why is this a big deal? She's wearing pants in her own home. What is such a problem with that? Like, I didn't get why I should even think twice about that, why I should even care. And this was like after I started, reading that book I mentioned and thinking critically. So I was almost about to be quiet about it, but because they kept on bringing it up and kept on talking about it, I was like, okay, I have to say something. So I was like, yeah, why is that a rule? What's the problem with that? And it's really funny because when I would explain, I would explain like why the rule doesn't make sense, how there's nothing in the Bible that says that, and I don't understand it. And the person had no response to give me that wasn't just like, they're like, maybe I'm not explaining it right. Maybe it's my fault. How do I explain this? And they would look up like a Watchtower article and show me like, oh, in Western culture, women tend to wear skirts and dresses. And I'm just like, that doesn't really apply today. And it made no sense to me. And we had ended up arguing for about 2 hours about this because I did not understand the rule.
Over pants on a woman.
Yes, a rule which they just changed.
Yeah, totally not a Pharisaical thing to defend, right?
And I know they did not quote a Bible verse when they did that. There was no Bible verse. They just said, yeah, we have decided, the governing body has decided that women can wear pants. And I'm just like, yep, there you go. Yeah. There is no biblical basis for that.
That's crazy, but I see that was a bit of your autonomy showing, your critical thinking surfacing through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think you were able to think about these things because they're just man-made rules at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
ridiculous
crazy.
ones at that.
Yeah, very ridiculous. And what else? Okay, so that was a big one. So
yeah,
continue on your journey of waking up. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought this is a big crack, but this is really where things started to fall down. So one of my best friends is actually an ex-Mormon. And when we first met, I didn't know that this person was an ex-Mormon. Their name's AJ. That's what they go by sometimes. So I'll call them that. I don't want to say too much about them here. So my friend AJ and I, we met at work. We were coworkers, and it started off like I said, fairly innocent. It wasn't really anything. We're just coworkers. We talked a bit about just different subjects like what was going on in the store that we worked at, and like I guess sometimes politics would come up, and occasionally TV shows. And we kind of just started to, I guess, sort of drift closer to one another, but it wasn't anything like people in the store would probably have gossiped, but it wasn't anything that I would get, in front of a judicial committee over. So we just would talk about different topics and subjects. And after a while, discovering we had a lot in common and we liked the same TV shows, that was a big thing. We decided like, hey, let's hang out outside of work. And, being a JW, that can be a big problem because it's like, man, you're not supposed to do that at all. But I think through this situation, and I'm like, I can't find a good reason in my head why I shouldn't do this. Like, I know how people act, and I know that nothing bad is going to happen from this. So I ended up doing it, and I ended up going to AJ's house, and it was them and their partner at the time that I hung out with, and we watched TV shows, and it went like how you might expect. We watched like several episodes, and then I went home, and nothing happened. I was just like, what was wrong with that? Why am I not allowed to do that? Why does my religion prevent me from doing that?
So are you
So
telling me that women are not just on the lookout for men to seduce all the time, like Watchtower tells us they are?
I not in my experience, sadly.
Neither in mine. So for our viewers who are never JWs, when you're raised a JW, you have this horrible view of women, and they're portrayed as, oh, be careful of worldly women, because they'll try everything in their power to get in bed with you, basically. But
They're always up to something, man.
they're always up to something. But as Cam said, once you go out in the real world, you see that that's actually not the case.
Yeah.
Okay,
Every
so
woman is not Potiphar's wife. So
no, definitely not. Most aren't. So the vast majority of people are pretty chill, right?
yeah, exactly. And that's what I learned when I did that. I was like, man, we just hung out like that. You can just do that. You can go to people's houses and hang out. And I'm like, what, 20 learning this? It's
Yeah,
ridiculous, man.
that's crazy. Yeah, they don't offer you drugs or sex immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, so hanging out with your
Professional
friend.
anarchist. One thing I want to say, sorry, in the
Go
chat,
ahead,
someone asked where I'm from. I'm on the East Coast of the U.S. I don't want to dox myself, so. But yeah, I'm in the Bible Belt. That'll give me some more
Oh,
information.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's rough. Okay, well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I can continue with after that. After we hung out for a bit, I was pretty conflicted by that. Like I said, I felt that this is something I shouldn't do, but I knew that AJ is a good person, so I'm gonna just continue doing it. I'll tell you the secret. I did it during family worship nights too. I skipped out on them. I can't believe I did that, but like at least at the time I couldn't believe it. But I skipped out on those. And later on, so after we'd been hanging out for a bit, me, AJ, and their partner, and we were at work one day, and religion came up as a topic. And I always avoided this topic, man. I did not like to talk about it because I didn't want to talk about being a JW. It was kind of a thing I just tried to push to the back of my mind so that I didn't have to think about it, because I don't know if I'd mentioned already, but Armageddon really did scare the crap out of me. I thought there was no chance I was going to survive it. So I kind of just pushed it to the back of my mind. And whenever religion came up, then I was like, oh man, JWs might come up. So AJ was telling me about how some Christians had come to their door. They weren't JWs, they were just Christians. Other Christians do that. I've had them come to my door too. And they talked about how, I guess, people who weren't part of their denomination were all going to burn in hell. And I remember like saying like, yeah, that sounds awful. That's horrible. How can someone believe that? Silently thinking like that kind of sounds like Armageddon, but not really thinking too hard about that. And afterwards, she asked if I was religious. AJ asked, man, I did that. Oh man, sorry AJ if you're out there. AJ asked if I was religious, and I said I felt comfortable enough at the time because we'd hung out for a little while. So I was like, I told them that I was a Jehovah's Witness. I was raised a witness, and that's still sort of what I believe. I kind of said it in a casual way. I never like to do the whole, I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses type thing that every witness seems to say. I hated saying that, so I just said, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and that is when AJ told me that they were a Mormon at the time, which surprised me because I was like, oh, I've heard of them, but I don't really know what they are about. I don't really know what they do. So, yeah, I've been talking for a little bit. I'll let you jump in if there's anything you want to ask about.
No, I'm just listening.
You good? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, over the next couple of shifts at our job, we talked about our respective faiths and our beliefs, and we kind of just compared the things that were the similar, things that were different. We were like, oh wow, we started around the same time. Yeah, we both do door-to-door proselytizing. And one of the main things that I remember is that we both talked about how we felt like we didn't have a choice to leave, and how the religion did not always feel like a choice. And that was one of the things from that conversation that, like, I still remember. Like, I remember so vividly us talking about that. I remember exactly where we were in the store when we said that. It was like, man. But we still were both like, I was an indoctrinated Jehovah's Witness. They were an indoctrinated Mormon. So later on, one of the things they told me was, and this was one of the things that really got me thinking, was how they're cautioned against looking at anti-Mormon sources. Because I'm like, that sounds a lot like apostates. We tell our members not to look at apostate stuff. And that, combined with the thought of, okay, well, what is it? If what I believe is really the truth, because that's what JWs call it. We call it the truth. Called it the truth. I'm not a JW anymore. I still do that. Anyways, we call it the truth. Then what is there that I could possibly see that would make me believe it's not the truth? Nothing, I should just be able to debunk anything that apostates say, right? Like, if what I believe is the truth. So that was one of the things that I couldn't logic my way out of, and I was like, I want to look at what apostates are saying.
Yeah. So by what we see in the Mormon religion, although it's a vastly different theology, they use very similar control methods when it comes to
Oh yeah.
apostates. And I guess they put this label of anti-Mormon, right, on any literature that is critical of the church.
Yeah, quite a bit of it.
Yeah. So different religions, but similar methods of control. Uh, so it's fascinating how you're saying that by taking a critical look at the Mormon religion with the help of your friend, opened up that door to look at your religion with a little more critical thinking.
Yeah, that was really the thing that I guess the beginning of the end, you could call it. One of the things is, like, Mormons have a lot more in their past. They've got like some real big. They got like genocides. There's the Mountain Meadows Massacre. If you've heard of that one, that one's really bad. There's Joseph Smith and all his wives, and that had me afraid of like what I might find if I looked into the past of the JWs. And while I don't think we have anything quite that bad, or at least we didn't in the past, I think more of our bad stuff is like more recent. I was still wondering what I would find, and that curiosity just got the better of me at the end of the day. I had to know.
Wow. Okay, so tell us some of the things you learned when you decided to do more research, at least on the
Yeah.
history aspect.
Oh yeah. So I kind of did the same thing that I've heard other stories on YouTube that people did, where they went on Wikipedia and they kind of just read the first thing they see. And one of the first things I've read about was Ray Franz, because they mentioned a governing body member left, and that shocked me. Like, I could not believe that someone from the very top. I'm like, why would he leave? That was another thing. Like, that was why I decided to look at Crisis of Conscience, which is the book he wrote when he left. I decided to look at it because I was like, why would a governing body member, someone at the very top of the religion who, so close to God, what could possibly make him leave? And when I found out he spent, like, I think it was like around 60 years in the full-time ministry, I was like, okay, I have to know. I have to know why this guy walked away from it, so that I don't spend 60 years of my life in something and then walk away from it. So I opened the book and I I skipped around a little bit because if you've read it, he details out like the history of the organization, and some of it's kind of boring at the beginning. But what really got me was the prophecies, the false prophecies, like all the different years, 1874, 1878, 1914, 1915, so on and so forth. All the years that they predicted for the end of the world that didn't come true. And I couldn't believe it. And one of the things that bothered me was that I couldn't, he would put the reference for the Watchtower in there, but because they're from like the 1920s, I went on jw.org and like, why does it only go back to 1950? I can't see any of the Watchtowers prior to 1950. So I had to find like other places online where I could check what he was saying to see if his sources were accurate, which they always were. So, man, he was tough.
That's crazy. So for our viewers who are not very familiar with it, all this history before Rutherford, before the second leader of the religion, is not available to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's very whitewashed, right? It's in the Proclaimer's book, but it's a very whitewashed version of history.
Yeah. It's barely in there. So like I think it's like Beth Sarim, that one. It's like a house that one of the past leaders of the JWs had, and he told everyone that the resurrected Bible characters would live in there with him, but of course they never got resurrected. So he just lived in that house. It was like his vacation home.
Yeah,
and it's like mentioned. Yeah, it was mentioned in the Proclaimer's book in like a little paragraph on the side where they talk about it, and they like quickly dismiss it.
Yeah, but not so. But they never mention 1878. They never mention that Russell believed the end was coming in 1914. That was the date for Armageddon. There's so much history that is just swept under the rug.
Yeah,
and that's another similarity with the Mormon Church. That the Mormon Church does exactly the same thing with the different visions of Joseph Smith with his polygamy. So all of these high control religions, the treasure digging, the looking into a hat to translate the Book of Mormon, because to the modern audience that is very silly, right? That is that is clearly sign of someone making stuff up. But it's just part of the history. They can't hide it from curious members.
Yeah, the best you can do is just downplay it or not really mention it. So
yeah, so you would say that the average JW is not really aware of their own history.
Oh, not at all. Another thing they gloss over, I don't know if you said it already, but the pyramids, like it's in the Proclaimer's book, like you said, but it just mentions, hey, this is something we don't believe anymore. And they don't tell you like how pretty much the entire eschatology was based off of that. All the end times predictions were connected to it. I won't necessarily say based off of it, but they were. It was intertwined with that like heavily.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Such a crazy history, and to it, everyone who hasn't read the book, I'll post it here. It's called Crisis of Conscience. It's an excellent read, and I believe Ray France remained Christian throughout his life, and but he had a very balanced view of the Bible, I would say. I think, I think in a way it even makes his book a little more readable to someone waking up, because he doesn't go full atheist immediately.
Yeah, I agree. He wrote another book called In Search of Christian Freedom, and in that book, you really can see just how he kept his faith in God, but he wasn't for organized religion anymore, which I see happens to quite a few JWs when they leave.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it makes sense, because I think when you wake up, you kind of just fed up with organized religion overall. Even if you remain a Christian, you don't really want to be controlled by other people.
Yeah, JWs really do like to dog other Christian religions too. Like they talk about how, Catholics are awful and all the denominations of Christendom and all that. So usually when you leave, you're not really looking for another religion. At least I think most of us.
Yeah,
Some people do.
yeah. Some people do. There's a little bit of everything in the community. But
Yeah.
okay, so you kept making more research. Was there anything else that you researched that you kind of like that got you shook or that you found interesting?
Hmm. I would probably have to say when I went on the subreddit, I knew about the XGW subreddit for a while. I'd seen links to it, but I never clicked them because I was apostate. So I couldn't, I was scared of that. But when I finally went into it, one of the things that I kept seeing mentioned was the ARC, which was the Australian Royal Commission, and it was a study done into it was a study done in Australia into institutionalized responses to child sexual abuse. I probably shouldn't say that because I don't want you to get demonetized, so I won't say that
Uh,
again. But
okay, it's
it was
okay.
a study done into CSA in Australia, and many different groups were. The study was done into. It was like a bunch of different groups, and the Jehovah's Witnesses was one of those groups, and they found it was like 1,006 cases, and of those, none of them were, or 1,006, I think it was perpetrators, but of all the cases that they did, none of them were reported to the police, and that was something that was like really staggering to me. I couldn't believe that like none of them got, not even a single one. I was shook by that.
And that was just in Australia.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God! Like if you applied that to other countries, then I'm like, man, this is how can I possibly was I even in that religion? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and what did you think? I don't know if you saw Jeffrey Jackson's testimony. What did you think about that?
Yeah. I watched some of the it's very long. It's court proceedings when they're recorded they're so long. So I watched the stories of some of the survivors of that, and I couldn't really go on. So I didn't get to the part with Jeffrey Jackson. I think that was like day two. And I didn't see that until later on. It was in someone had clipped it. Everyone clips that in their YouTube videos. So I ended up seeing it. I think it was in a video with Jexit and Harrison from The Truth Hurts. They clipped it. It was a video. I think it was like 10 things from the Jehovah's Witnesses that will shock you. And I watched that one, and that's where I saw like Jeffrey Jackson straight up say, well, I think it would be presumptuous, and that was like one of the things of all the things in the video. That was one of the ones that actually did shock me. I could not believe he said that. I was like,
Yeah,
imagine if I said that, when I was at the door or talking to somebody informally,
disfellowshipped.
Yeah,
You would get excommunicated from the thing.
seriously.
Well, yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think that's the most shocking governing body clip ever. Like it's way worse than the Tony Morris alcohol run
Yeah,
because I mean come on, he was just buying expensive booze. He wasn't
yeah,
denying Jehovah himself.
exactly.
Bec-
I get why some people, are unhappy about that, about Bottlegate, especially like, people who were in Bethel and like you couldn't have, a whole lot of alcohol. I understand why those people are mad about it, but for me, like it didn't shock me that much. I was like, okay, yeah, he bought alcohol and like he wasn't breaking any rules by doing that. Even if he did buy like a huge amount of it, there's no rule that like no doctrinal thing he broke. Maybe cultural
yeah.
things in some areas, but there was nothing like unscriptural about that really. So I don't know. Someone might, go in the comments and say, well, actually it was unscriptural, but I didn't see anything really.
Yeah,
That
I
was
mean, at least he wasn't denying his role as the faithful and discreet slave
yeah, like you
in
said,
front
he
of the
didn't deny
courts.
Jehovah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So when did you start looking into apostate material specifically?
Let's see. I mentioned earlier around June is when I started to wake up. So I think that's when I really started to look into it. But that's when I first started. I'd say I had to take breaks because I could not. You know how waking up is. It takes a huge toll on you mentally. So I started looking in around June. I found Crisis of Conscience, ARC. I took a break for about a month, and then one day, it was in my feed. I think it was on Reddit. I saw it wasn't even on the XJW subreddit. It was just in like the videos one. It was a guy who had recorded his judicial committee, and I clicked on. I remember I was at work in the break room, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my god. So I click on it, and I watched the whole thing, and to see how like every point he brought up was dismissed and how the decision was already made. To see like how a judicial committee even worked too was that was pretty fascinating. And that's kind of what got me back into looking at it. So yeah, I think around by the time I hit October of 2022, I think it was over for me. I believe that was the same month I first went to. I was still PEMA when I went to a meetup to meet other XJWs because I wanted to actually meet these people. I was like, they talk horribly about them. I want to see what they're like, what their lives are like, and what they're going to tell me. So I actually went and I drove to a town like an hour away from mine just to meet them because I didn't want anyone near me. I was still a little bit scared of it, but not too much. And I ended up hanging out with them. We had a really good time. We went to a couple bars and we talked for a bit. And I think that was really the moment where I was like, yeah, no, if this is what apostates are like, then I don't see anything real bad with that. I think that was the moment where I really decided, like, yeah, I'm not going to stay in this forever.
So yeah, you were still PMO at the time when you hanged out with apostates.
Like once, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
was there a specific moment that I like the term Mormons use, broke the shelf, that you said, okay, I can't do this anymore? Or was there a specific moment like that you were like, okay, I'm not gonna be a Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah. I don't think I have a specific moment. I think it was just a combination of things. Like I said, meeting them and realizing that they're just regular people, which is what I was a little bit nerve-wracking, like I said, but I sort of predicted that. I'm like, these people, I've seen them on YouTube, and they're not crazy. Most of them, anyways. They don't seem to be crazy, so I think they'll be fine. But yeah, I don't think I had a specific moment that broke the shelf. I guess maybe when I finished the ARC, when I finished watching all that, then I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be part of it because I've seen the harm that the religion causes.
Okay. And when did you become fully POMO?
So let's see. I started to phase out it was the weekend meeting. I would just my family thought I was going to work, and I wouldn't tell them I wasn't. So I phased out the weekend meeting first, and then I stopped going to the midweek meeting. I think it was by November, I want to say, November of 2022. The only reason I went to the last one is because I actually had a part with another brother on the stage where I had to go up there and we did the little demonstration. So that's the main reason that I went. I probably wouldn't have gone if it hadn't been for that. And that was the last meeting I went to. And I only really went to half of the meeting. I was on Zoom for the beginning of it, and then I drove to the Kingdom Hall for my part, and then after my part, I left, and I never went back.
So that was it. That was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A year and a half.
Yeah. It feels like longer, I will say though, but yeah, no, that was pretty much the end of it.
Okay.
My family did Zoom sometimes, but they started to sort of go back. So I would stay back on Zoom, but I wouldn't really. Sometimes I would put it on and I would just be in the other room, and then eventually get to the point where I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even bother to put it on. I would just, not do anything. But I remember particularly one evening where I thought they were about to leave, and they didn't leave to go to the hall. And I was like, man, they're doing Zoom too. So I was in the kitchen, eating my dinner, and I kind of had to make the choice of, they put Zoom on and they're in the living room and I can hear it. And I'm like, okay, am I gonna go in there and am I gonna sit down with them, or am I going to just go to my room? So it took me about 20 minutes, but after I finished eating and then I got up and I went to my room and I was like, I'm not going. So it was hard to do that in front of my family because like they were all sitting there and they kind of just watched me walk by and not go. But by that point, they knew that I didn't agree with a lot of stuff, and they knew that I wasn't a witness anymore. So at least I think they did. I don't know for certain.
And how did your family react once you stopped going to meetings?
Well, that's interesting. So I think I should back up just a teeny bit. When I started to look at apostate stuff, and I looked at, I read Crisis of Conscience. When I started to read that, I made the mistake of like, I wish I'd read more on the subreddit because they tell you, not to tell anybody. But I went and I talked to my parents about it. I brought it up. I was like, hey, well, what's the deal with all these false prophecies we had in the past? And my parents kind of got a bit, they were a bit freaked out. I'm trying to think of a better word to use than that, but I mean, they did kind of freak out on me. And I got the elders called on me basically, and I had to do like, a shepherding call. And I talked with them about like all the prophecies. And I remember at the time, 1975 was the biggest one because there was so much that shows you like that the organization actually said that the end would come in 1975. They all but said it, I guess. And I remember I went and I was talking with the elders about that, and they, how do I put this? They sort of convinced me, I guess, to just let it lay, not really. It was like, yeah, it wasn't a big prophecy, even though I'd seen the evidence. At least I'd seen it online at that point, and I didn't want to argue with them. So I just went back home and I decided I'm not going to pick a fight about this. And I went to look in because like I said, my family's fourth generation. So I went and I found like our old books because we had books from that time and a few from before that time. And I went and I found the books that actually had the stuff that said 1975 in it. And once I realized that, I kind of just decided, okay, they're not telling the truth to me. There's no point in talking to them about this. So I'm not going to talk to my parents about this really anymore. And that's kind of when like my relationship with them, well, let's just say normal family relations did not continue. That Watchtower lawyer lied. I started to drift away, and they noticed that. And my mom tried to talk to me, but my dad didn't really. He kind of just stayed away from me, kept his distance in terms of that, in terms of that part of the conversation. So.
Yeah, you just kind of agreed to not bring religion up, I guess.
Yeah. My mom tried to talk to me, and we did have some conversations, but I wish I had. I think there were errors made on both sides. I wish that I had approached it a bit differently and had been a bit less gung ho about it and trying to debunk the religion. So. Yeah, that's why sorry, I rambled a bit there. Your question, you asked about.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, we need all this context to understand.
Yeah. What was it you had asked me? You'd asked me about how my parents had.
Yeah, I mean, so you still talk to your parents and your family?
Yeah, to some degree. I'm not shunned. I was never baptized, and that's how it is officially. And there were other members of my family who weren't baptized, and we never shunned them either. I don't know if this interview ever gets out, that might change, but yeah, no, I'm not shunned by them. We do still talk, but the conversations they're not what they used to be.
Yeah, I feel you. That happens.
Excuse me.
It's okay. Okay, yeah. Wow. So what a story. But I'm glad you never got baptized because it really helps out that they can't disfellowship. They don't have any
Yeah,
control over you.
yeah. It's a double-edged sword, I say, because like I remember, and this kind of goes back to when I was talking to AJ, and like we were talking about our religions, and I remember talking about how I wasn't able to there was stuff that I wanted to do. I wanted to move on with my life, essentially. You know, I was approaching 20 at the time, and I'm like, I don't have a whole lot of friends really. I don't have any really kind of social life, and I wanted that. There was stuff that other people were doing that was just innocent stuff that I wanted to do, but when you don't get baptized as a JW, you know, you can't date, you can't really make a whole lot of friends because they don't want, you know, bad association and all that. So you're kind of like soft locked out of the religion until you get baptized, and then you can do more. So that was a big thing. I always bring that up when people say, you know, yeah, it's good I didn't get baptized. It is, yeah, you know, in terms of shunning. I guess when you leave, but when you're in and you're not baptized, like you can't do anything practically.
Yeah. Yeah, you're harassed to get baptized.
Yeah, man. Oh my God.
That's true. That's true. So after you left the religion, um, what have what have you done? What has helped you to keep moving on with your life? What are your goals now? Your aspirations?
Mm-hmm. I'd say one of the things I did, and I took this advice from the XW critical thinkers. They talk about how after you leave, you know, you should go back and like take psychology courses. And I was trying to go back to school for some other stuff, and I still am, but I've had some stuff happen recently that's kind of like, you know, prevented that. But last year I went back and I took several classes, and one of the main ones that I remember were psychology, because in that one, like they teach you critical thinking, and this is like a basic level course. It's like one of the first courses you take when you're either in college or like if you're going back. Psychology is one of the required classes you had to take, and in that they teach you critical thinking. So I could really see, like, man, they weren't kidding. They really do discourage college for reasons like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. The
I think the other one.
critical
Sorry.
thinking is critical thinking is the end of this religion.
Yeah, man. Oh, for real. And then the other class I had was a public speaking class, and that was actually a really fun one. And in that class, they teach you about logical fallacies, which we had a quiz on it. I remember I got them all right because it's just like, yeah, no, I learned all these. I'm like, man, I wish I had, because I did a college course, but I didn't have to take any of those classes. So once I actually finally got to, I was like, man, this is basic stuff they teach you in college, like how to think. So it's no wonder to me that they demonize college so much and higher education and like higher thinking.
Yeah. Okay. And what is your view on religion now that you left?
Views on religion. Oof. When I first started to wake up, I mentioned Bo Bennett, the guy who wrote the Logically Fallacious book. I read another book he wrote. That guy's an atheist, and I was agnostic at first. I was like, yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm going to say. I don't know if there is God or isn't. And later on, I started to watch. I started going on YouTube, and I'd watch sometimes debates with Christians and atheists, and like sometimes the call-in shows where Christians call atheists, and I fell really heavy into those. I would watch them all day, and seeing the exact same arguments that I would use as a JW just being debunked over and over again, and no one had any other kind of argument that's different. And I'm just like, man. And once atheism got explained to me, like how it's just a lack of belief in God, that's all at the end of the day, that's what it is. That's when I finally started to say, yeah, you know, I think I am atheist. I couldn't believe I became atheist. I'm an agnostic atheist, but here we are. So yeah, I'm not quite anti-theist. I don't think religion in itself, at least at the base level, is the worst thing ever. Especially because so many religions, you know, don't have a God aspect in them. It's just about to for lack of a better word, spirituality and you know, being connected with things around you. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on religion now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's pretty common for XJWs to just end up as agnostic atheists, or I mean, at least the younger demographic, no?
Yeah, yeah. You do have a section of our community that does stay religious, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I like people like, you know, like you, who have a more nuanced view of the Bible and know more about it now. So it's in context too. That's a big thing.
Yeah, that's super important to learn about your religion in context, the context that it arose in, and it just makes more sense, you know. These things
Yeah.
don't happen in a vacuum.
Exactly. I was watching a video just yesterday actually on Zoroastrianism and how all the concepts of like the heaven and hell and the eternal battle between darkness and evil and just all the concepts that I thought were Christian were actually taken from Zoroastrianism. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's true. All right. For the chat, guys, if you want to leave a question, you can do that now. I'm gonna, if there's any questions, I'll put them here for you, Cam. So
Yeah,
you
totally.
can answer them. Let me see this one. Did you witness any homophobia within your group?
Yes, I did. I'm not proud of it, but I participated in that. I witnessed it too, though. I wasn't. Thankfully, I did have friends in my school who were gay. The person who taught me how to crochet, actually, she was gay. So I want to say I wasn't as bad, but I definitely had to go through a real mindset change when I left the religion. Let's see what else. I remember one time though, this elder's wife. I was in the hall, and she misheard somebody. She thought that they said, "Yeah, this group of people." I think it was like someone who was in a band. Like, "Yeah, that person's gay." And like, I remember she just had the like, "They're gay," and she just had the worst, nastiest expression on her face. And she's the sweetest lady, I remember, but like, man, the homophobia is real in that religion.
And you got a
Also, if
double
you've seen
whammy. Yeah, in the Bible Belt, I'm sure it's even worse.
yeah, I was just about to mention the if you've seen the Caleb and Sophia cartoon, by the way, yeah, they don't really hide it. They're not trying to be progressive in that area. So
Yeah, and on the same vein, Kim Jong Un. Oh, welcome back, Supreme Leader. Uh, how extreme is the homophobia and transphobia within the religion? As we mentioned, pretty bad, right?
Yeah, trans people. So if you put in like transgender on, I remember doing this on Watchtower Library. You don't actually really get anything. It doesn't come up. They don't really recognize trans people. They do have articles on like what they call like transsexuals, but and I think that's like the closest they get to actually referring to trans people. But I don't really consider that like giving the people the respect they deserve and like actually referring to them. So
Yeah, and I mean, debut in a video before, it was like the family soap opera. They even denied they had gay members in their church,
yeah,
which
that
is
was bad.
it's just a complete lie. It's not true.
Mm-hmm. And there was that other convention video of the lady in the store being offered the band. It was the scenario that would never happen. She is offered the band, and then someone in the line behind her calls her out when she doesn't take it, and they paint themselves as the victims. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
those
a
are pretty
classic.
bad. If someone was openly gay,
No,
usually they're kind
you
of
can't be. You can't be, right?
yeah. For the most part, no. There are people I'd heard of people who were gay, but they were considered like I guess not practicing, so or like they're not acting on it. So that's like the most you could do in terms of being openly gay. I know the person who this is a little thing I guess I'll share. The person who actually planned my parents' wedding was gay. He was a brother in the JWs, and apparently he was gay, and he left like I think it was 6 months after my parents got married. So
Yeah, I think we've all
yeah,
met people, JWs who you can just tell, that they're gay. And
yeah.
it's just something you don't ask. It's just sometimes it's obvious.
Yeah, it's a really hush hush type of thing. You don't talk about that.
Yeah, and I meant to ask you as well. I haven't asked before. How was your experience being a black member of JW Church?
Mhm.
Is there any difference? How was it? I just have no experience with it.
Yeah, so in my area, I actually have quite a few people who there's like a lot of witnesses of color in my area. So I personally, I don't think I even went high enough for that to be a problem. Uh, it wasn't really an issue for me, at least. I didn't experience anything that I think was racism because of my skin in the witnesses. I've experienced some pretty bad stuff in the witnesses. Like I've been told some pretty nasty stuff, but it was never about that. At least that in my experience,
Hmm.
Yeah. I've heard stuff in other areas, but just not me. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And like,
Yeah,
do you
I think
do
so.
you, do you think like your current haircut would have been flown when you were in?
Probably not, no. And it's funny you mentioned that. You just reminded me. So one of the I mentioned like how I got the elders called on me when I first, looked at all that apostate stuff. I actually saw one of the elders that was there a couple days ago in the store. I saw him, and he kind of did like I feel like he did a double take when he looked at me. He kind of looked at me and was like I could tell he looked at my haircut, and then he looked like kind of down at my face, and I was like, oh man, I guess, but he didn't say anything about it. He was perfectly nice. He didn't shun me at all. So yeah, it was just kind of funny to me because he definitely looked at it and he noticed it, but nah, they don't allow men to have any kind of long hair.
Do you think
That's
that will
another
ever
really.
change? Do you think that will ever change that?
I could see that one changing, yeah, because
Yeah, because it.
I think it's hard to if you told someone that you were studying with that you have to change the if you have to change your haircut, that's they would be like, well, where's that in the Bible? And it's not really in the Bible. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, maybe they'll change that because I mean it's part of your self expression. It's like there's nothing wrong with it. So we'll see. They just wanted you to conform to the 1950s American white American look.
exactly. Yeah, they're just now starting to move away from it. Just now.
Okay. Let's see. Well, if there's any other questions, we'll see right now. Okay, so what plans do you have for your future now? What projects are you gonna do any activism or tell us a little
hmm
bit about your projects?
So my main thing was just I like to crochet stuff. I made the pandas. I sent Panda a picture of one. I have a couple more here that I've been working on. I did these goats because I like to give them out sometimes if I go to meetups. I did this Caleb one. This is a JW pattern actually, and my one of my favorites too. This one takes a while though, but the Smurf because we all know the story of the Smurfs. If you don't, there's an old JW uh, tale about a Smurf in a Kingdom Hall getting up and it was demon possessed or something. I don't know. It's really weird. But yeah, that's one of my main ones. It's my Etsy store. I started that. I had started recording some stuff last year, but I felt that I wasn't in a place mentally where I could really get into because I know like I don't have to tell you that being a XJW on YouTube, it's there's some stuff that comes with it. It's pretty there's some baggage that comes with it, and I just didn't know if I was ready for all that. So
Yeah, it's
so
like
yeah.
dealing with radioactive waste as a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will link the your store in the description
Yeah,
below, so
definitely.
people can go get a little goat or a Panda Tower plushie.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't listed the goats yet. I
Oh,
will do
okay.
that soon. But the plushies, yeah, these ones. I actually had a thing I wanted to do where I'm gonna list three of these separately, and the next three I'm gonna donate the money to Panda. So if you want to support Panda and get a plushie, you can. You can
Yeah.
do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Is there anything else you would like to share with our crowd today? Any message you would like
Uh,
to give to everyone?
I think one thing is for people who are thinking about leaving, just take your time. If you wanna get out, don't rush yourself. It's okay to take breaks, and waking up, it's really hard. And you have, XW activists who take breaks. So I recommend doing that. Find someone to talk to who maybe ex-JW or just a person who's never a JW. I've found that people who were never in a cult or religions like the witnesses, they really they have an outsider perspective and they can see things that sometimes that you can't. Um, and the new thing, the Liberati, they're a really cool thing that exists now. I'm not actually technically part of them, but I'm friends with them, and they're really cool people. And if you can stay anonymous, and they'll provide you with a safe space, people to talk to. So
Oh, that's
that's
right.
what I'd
Yeah.
recommend.
You're very familiar with. You met Wally from JW Thoughts and
Oh
several other
yeah,
activists,
yeah.
right?
I met Wally last year on his. He did a road trip. Yeah, he's a really cool dude. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, hopefully we catch up
Yeah.
in person as well once I'm in the Bible Belt. I'll visit one day for
Yeah,
sure.
man. I hope to definitely.
Yeah,
Finally get you one
cool.
of these, man. Finally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll get it in my hands one day for sure. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
man.
making them. They're really cute.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
anything else you would like to add for today?
I think I'm good. Yeah. Thank
Oh,
you, though. Thank you for sharing your platform with me, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I love your channel. I'm sure all 146 people in the chat do too. So, yeah.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for joining the live stream and to whoever listens to it afterwards.
Mhm.
Hopefully, I'm trying to get more guests in the channel, and we'll see how it goes. We'll have a lot of projects coming up. Really exciting things.
Awesome.
Awesome, guys.
Can't wait
Well,
to see your waking up story, Panda.
yeah, one day I want to record it, but I kind of want to show my face for that. But well,
Yeah, man.
later on.
Take
Yeah,
your
I
time.
mean, yeah, you already saw my face. It's not that exciting.
Mhm. Yeah, man.
Cool. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for joining the stream. We're gonna
Bye,
end the
everyone.
stream here. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.